ever since the.
I get to, I should turn the green light.
Widening.
Turn the green light on, can't do it.
All right, we will call on 30 seconds early.
30-second row.
We'll wait.
The folks
But-
online, can you hear us all right? Yeah, and I believe Kevin.
All right, we'll call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. And we will start with the roll call.
Matthew Lane. Here. Chris Clark.
Here.
Lee Anderson. Here. Joe Bond.
I'm here for Joe Bond and John Summer. I'm the new president of Fredericksburg. We can take Joe Bond over here.
Okay.
All character.
We can discuss with Carrie afterwards. Thank you. First, Kevin Brown, I believe, is on the telephone. You can see our microphone moving, so I know we're.
Oh, can you hear me?
Kevin.
This is Kevin Brown.
Perfect. Thank you, Kevin. Chris
Okay.
Collins. Chris Collins. Lynn Faust. Aaron Frank. Deborah Foltz. Greg Goldstein. Jamie Jackson. Linda Lasute. Here. Deborah Lately. I see
Here.
is online.
Yes, here.
Cassie Lord. Jim Lynch.
Here.
Rob Maple. Ben Matters. Clay Murray. Brian Ogle. Ogle, okay, thank you. Jacob Paswick.
Here.
Craig Pennington. John Summer.
I'm here and just.
Or John Summer.
Matter of fact, I will be here from now on.
Is there anyone I missed? And, okay, great, thank you. Roll has been.
All right, awesome.
Jim?
Thank you. Just
Oh, yes.
one thing for everyone before we get any further. There's a server upgrade going on later this evening. So we don't want this meeting to run too long tonight. So just, presentations normally concise as we go, but we will move on to approval of the March 7th, 2024 BPAC meeting agenda. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
All right, do I have a second? All right, any discussion?
Just quickly, just a minor correction, the email on the bottom, okay.
Thank you,
We're
got
good.
it.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We'll move on to the approval of the January 4th, 2023 meeting minutes.
You have any other agendas? Oh, they do.
All right, we have a first, we have a second.
I'm okay.
Sure, I'll abstain on this one, I wasn't at the rest of the meeting, so.
Mr. Chairman, I had a correction or clarification to my member report last time that I've already emailed in.
Okay.
Carrie, so I think we're good with that.
All right, awesome. All right,
To
any-
approve this, with correction.
all right. Do I have a second? Okay. All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, move on to public comments. Comments and questions from members of the public are welcome at this time. Do we have anybody in the room or online or anything to read out?
Yes, we do have online, but nobody's in the room. Okay, great. We received a message or an email from Patrick Carl. He states, I live in the Chancellor area in the Enchanted Woods subdivision. I'm a cyclist who frequently rides on the roads in Pennsylvania. To my knowledge, there are no bike lanes, no road markings that indicate cyclists are sharing the road, none. The only exception is the Fredericksburg Cyclist Club, which sponsors weekly rides throughout the Fredericksburg area. And they had to buy some signs to post on the side of the roads to help with notifying motorists to share the road. Please consider that many cyclists need your help to safely ride in Spotsylvania, Stafford, Caroline, and Kingsbridge. Oops, sorry, I thought it was showing. There you go. All right, and the next comment we have is from Joe Jarski. Can we please fix Route 3 West? It literally takes me less time to get to my job on 16 from Stafford to Route 3 than it does to go from 95 Route 3 exit to my house off of Gordon Road. That bypass you approved, then removed a few years ago would be nice right now. And the final comment we have is from Linda Thornton. I would like to point out that I have been experiencing an increase in reckless behavior of bicyclists and skateboarders and pedestrians in the city of Fredericksburg. I almost hit someone that failed to stop at all or even slow down at the intersection of Mary Ball Street and Kenmore Avenue. I was traveling at the posted speed on Kenmore towards the dog park. A cyclist entered the intersection for Mary Ball, turning towards the way I had come, right in front of my car. The cyclist did not even acknowledge me. My husband had a similar experience at an intersection of Route 1 and Mary Washington Boulevard. My husband had the right of way and was turning. The cyclist ran through the intersection as if he had the right of way. In both of these instances, if the automobile drivers did not have quick reflexes, these incidents would have ended very badly for all parties. If automobile drivers are expected to share the road, then others that share the road need to obey traffic laws. There's no formal education, no driver's ed required to ride a bike. Is there a way the lack of respect or knowledge of traffic laws can be addressed? And that concludes public comment that we received in advance. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. We move on to discussion and action items. We will start with Elliot Caldwell from the East Coast Greenway Alliance.
Hey folks, my name is Elliot Caldwell with the East Coast Greenway Alliance. I'm based in DC, but I cover Washington, DC and Virginia. Really just wanted to come down and sort of put some time and meet folks face to face and answer any questions and again, learn a little bit more about what's going on in Fredericksburg. I have very basic like route maps and informational sort of placards here as well as my cards. So feel free to grab any of those after the meeting. Currently our route in the region, I've been working a lot with Carrie and then others on sort of how best to route East Coast Greenway, both sort of on the interim, but also long-term. Long-term, the goal of course is 3,000 miles multi-use trail connecting Calais and Maine to Key West in Florida. Obviously there are a lot of sections right now in sort of Virginia overall that are interim and sort of on road, but the goal of course is really have connected trails all throughout the Commonwealth. So I've been in Richmond a lot and I've been in Southside, I've been in Hampton Roads a lot. So I'm going to spend a lot more time in Fredericksburg this year. Took the VRE down today and I'm actually going to ride back to DC on the East Coast Greenway. So I'll get some sort of up close and personal takes on what's going on in Stafford and Prince William counties tomorrow. And then hopefully for the Virginia Land Trust and Greenway Conference in May, which is taking place in Mary Washington, I'm going to ride up from Richmond up to Fredericksburg with a colleague from Plan RVA, Phil Riggin. We're doing along with Ursula Lemansky from NPS and some other partners, we're going to do sort of a bit of a trail, I guess, showcase of Fredericksburg for that conference. And so the information about that, I think it's on the wall website, and I think Carrie shared some of that as well.
Yeah, I can
Share that out. So yeah, happy to answer any questions about the East Coast Greenway and about the East Coast Greenway Alliance. Feel free to come talk to me afterwards, grab some information. Yeah, I just look forward to hearing kind of more about what's going on in the different.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions?
How long will it take you to bike?
Think from where I'm staying at the Hyatt to where I live, which is kind of like Catholic University, 77 miles, and that'll probably take me most of the day. Mainly that mileage is not like crazy for me for one day. It's more that the way the East Coast Greenway is currently routed is like, it'll be a lot of turns on kind of more rural or ex-urban roads.
Right.
There are some trails along Route 1 and then kind of more towards I guess Nabsco Creek and like Woodbridge. There's some trails, but you're constantly kind of hop. Yeah.
Daytime?
Yeah, and that takes a lot more time. Once I get
I'm just gonna leave here and.
no, I'll probably leave in the morning, down in the afternoon. But once you get to from basically Occoquan until Greenbelt, Maryland, you can ride on the trail the whole way.
WNFD, which is.
No, I'll be on the Mount Vernon and then cross into DC, and then once you're in DC, you can be protected bike lanes, which we do designate, to the Anacostia River Trail, which will take you all the way up more or less to where they're going to put the new FBI reportedly, but I will see if that actually happens, right by the Greenbelt Metro. So that's kind of where our route in Maryland dead ends going north. Yeah, unfortunately, I'd say the WNOD is a great example, sort of similar to the Fredericksburg area, which is that a lot of the canals and rivers and a lot of the railroad lines that were going kind of towards the Shenandoah Valley or heading out kind of towards Loudon, those areas, they're kind of heading northwest to southeast.
Oh, yeah.
Our route is following the line of the coast, which really means we're going northeast to southwest. And so we're kind of constantly, particularly in Virginia, but also honestly in some other states further south, we're kind of cutting against the grain of where a lot of the longer sort of distance trails and planned trails really go. So yeah, it'd be great to use the WNOD. The problem is it just gets you closer to basically to the Shenandoah Valley or heading out that way.
Yeah.
We're trying to stay kind of inland as much as possible and honestly stay to the, I guess, east of 95 as much as possible.
Is there any rail trail? I'm thinking about you, like any rail trail in any of those plans that would be able to get incorporated? Or-
Well, locally, I'd love to know more. I would say there are sections of rail trail in like the Richmond area that will be in Chesterfield County and in Hanover County and a couple other places that will be a part of the Fall Line Trail, which is their sort of like planned 40+ mile trail that will go from Ashland to Petersburg. And then honestly, the big hope for us is that the high-speed rail does happen between Petersburg and Raleigh, and that's on an already existing rail corridor that's pretty wide, and VDOT has been studied to do rail with trail along that corridor.
Awesome.
But there's been a bunch of federal money going towards that project, but it's all going towards North Carolina. And I think North Carolina is a little bit more primed for it than VDOT is at the moment. But again, I don't speak for VDOT, but I think North Carolina right now might be the bigger focus. So, but if you imagine high-speed rail, it'll be even fewer stops than say like the VRE. So you really need to give the communities that are say in Southside, you need to give them some benefit because the high-speed rail is literally going to go like 1,000 miles an hour from the front doors, and no one's going to be exiting or entering the train or staying overnight there. So the trail's almost like, I don't say it's a mitigation, but it's almost like give something else for those communities that high-speed rail is going to go through so that people actually are drawn to the region. And again, that's in this, like, it's a 100-page VDOT study I've done a bunch of years ago. But yeah, rail trails are difficult along certain, like in New York and New Jersey, it's great because there's a lot of abandoned rail there, and it kind of, it really works a lot better with the routing. But the longer distance stuff in Virginia particularly is tough because it's all very west, not north, south.
No, that's like ours. Our railroad trail is the Dog Railroad Heritage Trail.
Right, yes, of course.
Yeah, which you've heard of probably, and it runs east-west, so it would be a great linkage, a great connector to the East Coast Green Line. But
and I'll say we in terms of like whether it's writing support letters or testimonials or whatever, we don't just like stand up and make arguments for trails that are on our network. Like we will gladly kind of work with partners because we really want people to be able to get from like their front door or where they live or their community to the sort of main spine. And so that includes something like the dog trail.
Yeah. We also have hopes of encouraging the active part of the rail line that used to be a part of the Dog and Railroad Trail. The active part would be a great rails with trails option.
Right.
So we have that in the back of our minds too. So good. Thank you, Ellen.
Thanks.
Well, you'll be in Stafford, you'll be riding right by my office tomorrow, so stop in.
I just quickly provide a heads up on the East Coast Greenway. So biggest problem that I've had with Spotsylvania County is it's been a moving target in a lot of ways. And some of it's not only within the county, it's, when regionally we had tentative routes that as staffing changed and new people come on board, they decide they don't want it there anymore. Next thing you know, we're trying to reconnect somewhere from locality to locality. Right now within our comprehensive plan, I'll tell you, we have a likely reroute that's going to be needed with Caroline County and Spotsylvania County. So that's a process that we'll have to go through. We went through it not that long ago.
Yeah, we did.
and we're gonna do it again.
Okay.
My understanding is Caroline County has been favoring the Route One corridor, and I'll be honest with you, it's been something that historically try to avoid, because you have a lot of intersecting streets, you have curb cuts, it's more of an urban section. But you get to a point where you start running out of route options. Or in non-urbanized areas, you either don't have a lot of impetus for development to get these frontage improvements developed privately through proffers, for instance. Or really localities have other priorities that seem to, there's not big slush funds locally, let's just say it this way, for bike ped trails. And we found within Pennsylvania County, our biggest success, I know greenways are pretty and recreationally, they're significant, and they separate themselves from traffic. But in terms of garnering local support and funding allocations, we're finding that pairing them with smart scale projects for road widening, for instance, tend to be where we're getting the most bang for our buck. The route I'm speaking of, and I want to hold the meeting up, but the route I'm speaking of, which would reroute the southern part of our road from Massaponax Church Road down the Route One corridor to Caroline. And that's the thing too, is if you want development, you know, there's arguments against development, but then for bike ped, we're getting significant pieces of bike ped because of development. But the Amazon data center, Cosner Tech campus approval recently is going to result in a significant, and it's piecemeal, it really is. And we're still fighting against trails to nowhere arguments because they see a project build start and end at their property boundary and say it goes to nowhere. Well, it does, and then it doesn't as we infill. But the Cosner Tech campus is a perfect example where that's going to have a significant piece of trail system associated with the East Coast Greenway. Spotsylvania Tech campus at Route One and North Roxbury Mill Road is another significant industrial park project that's going to have frontage improvement, shared use path built with that. Thornburg Industrial Park is going to have, South Roxbury Mill is another significant piece getting towards our Thornburg area, and Kalahari Resort is developing a fairly significant piece headed towards Caroline as well. Although they're stopping short at environmentally sensitive areas, which basically have been deferred to someone else will do it. So, but that's where we are right now. And it's a challenge, and Caroline County isn't here right now, but I'll tell you, even from their perspective, you know, some of these roads, if you get in rural areas, and now we're looking at gaining right of way in areas that had been farming acreage, and they're losing some crop, things of that nature. And frankly, rural lower volume roads may not score well for transportation improvement projects. So competitively, they're not attracting dollars either. So some of these areas, I think, it's a series of starts and stops. It's a series of moving targets. We're getting bits and pieces for sure, but I don't think, you know, unless there's some massive influx and significant allocation towards corridor, I don't know, you know, it's gonna be a slow process. That's just the unfortunate reality I see. So.
I will second exactly what Jacob said, Stafford. We have not as much going on in terms of development with shared use paths, but similar piecemeal of things slowly coming together.
Yeah.
So. Unless anyone has anything further on East Coast Greenway, we move on to our next agenda item. So item B, Safe Streets for All, SS4A Action Plan.
Thanks. I'm gonna scroll down through this presentation. You all have had it in your packet. What we are working on, and you all saw the presentation a little while ago. The draft safety action plan that we prepared through Safe Streets for All grant program addresses fatalities and serious injuries, crash type on our road systems. The countermeasures that you'll see, what this safety action plan resulted in, it's out for public comment now. Coley has left a flyer with the code to take a metro survey. It's a really great survey. We'd love for you to do that survey. It includes a map that you can do a drop down of safety improvements in the region. And I know in the past, you all have had voiced concerns of the major countermeasures that's on all of these roads. are rumble strips, edge line rumble strips and center line rumble strips. You'll see that on every one of these roads as a recommended countermeasure. It's up to the locality whether they want to implement rumble strips on their roadways. As a safety engineer and VDOT, knowing VDOT standards, they do not put rumble strips on a curvy road, either on the center line or the edge line. The reason for that is because cars and trailers, when they go around a curve, go in a spiral. When that motorist feels that rumble strip, he tends to go away from it, either into the ditch line or across the center line. But you always see the consultant put that as a recommended countermeasure, because it is a countermeasure that prevents center line, crossing the center line and crossing the leaving the edge of the road, and so forth. So what we're asking the localities to do, and what the consultant has done, is they've taken the recommended countermeasures on high priority corridors, and the consultant has done a cost estimate for them based on the extent or lengths that you see on the slide. What the localities are doing now is taking a look at those priority corridors, taking a look at the menu of countermeasures that have been estimated, and determining those countermeasures and those roads for which they would like to apply for an implementation grant. The deadline for that implementation grant application is May 16th. What the countermeasures and the implementation grant will comprised of is those which can be accomplished within the existing roadway prism, ditch to ditch, no right-of-way acquisition, no utility relocation, and in the counties, those will be countermeasures for which VDOT can install as part of their normal maintenance operations in the upcoming fiscal year. The city will be looking at those for which the city contract forces and contractors can implement. They all have to be finished and installed within fiscal year FY25. So you won't see a lot of, you'll see, I think in the city, you'll see some particularly opportunities for pedestrian crossing, pavement marking, that sort of thing. The projects you'll see in the rural counties will be those such as raised reflective pavement mark, or edge line pavement marking, which is lacking in a lot of locations. You will probably also see some shoulder hardening where it can be done within the existing right of way, between the existing edge of pavement and the top of the ditch. VDOT has been working with localities, Stafford and Spotsylvania, namely, to install those type of shoulder hardenings on those roads. I doubt you'll see any opportunities for edge line rumble strips, except perhaps Orange Plank Road. That's a straight road and allows that to be accomplished along with shoulder widening. The safety action, draft safety action plan is out for public comment, and the comment period ends toward the end of March 27th. We'd like you to review this plan if there are comments you have or things to incorporate. I'd like to point out too, the typical emphasis area crashes that are interesting in this report. For the city of Fredericksburg, the highest emphasis area crashes are at intersections and involve impaired driving, Caroline County roadway departures and speeding. In the other three jurisdictions, Stafford, King George, and Spotsylvania, intersection crashes and impaired driving. So you'll see behavioral countermeasures in the safety action plan. Those are countermeasures that are listed with NHTSA, that's National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, where we will use the 4 E's of road safety, including education, going into the programs to go into the schools, for example, to particularly the high schools with young drivers to try to get commitments and encouragement of safe driving and to try to reduce youth and impaired driving. And we will have the public hearing on the draft safety action plan will be at the March Policy Committee meeting. The adoption will be at the April committee meeting. And that adoption resolution for this safety action plan to meet the requirements of SS4A must be a resolution that commits to 0 deaths, vision 0. And we're following or going to adopt the VDOT highway safety goal of 0 deaths, 50% reduction in deaths and serious fatalities by 2045. And the other commitment is ongoing monitoring of the reduction in crashes as time goes by a committed stakeholder group that incorporates, that group must be comprised of representatives from emergency management services, from the school education programs, engineers like myself, as well as the enforcement individuals. That concludes my presentation, if there are any questions.
Yeah, I had one question. Becky, you mentioned everything needs to be constructed in FY25?
Yes, and finished.
Okay, all I've seen is that it needs to be obligated by like FY26 and everything needs to be complete by like FY2032.
Nope, it has to be finished up and can't lag on.
Okay, can you just send me that information?
It's in the notice of funding opportunity.
Could you just
have
Okay.
Is that,
Ready yourself.
is that a July 1 FY25 or an October 1 FY25?
It's in the grant period cycle that we have when we apply for the implementation grant, which is in May. The award will be probably issued in July or August. And so in that implementation grant application, we're going to have to put the date upon which the work will be completed. And that will be probably August of 2025, 12 months from the award.
Okay.
It is not a multi-year drag out thing. I mean, you could put that in there, but it won't be. All I want to say, the notice of funding opportunity, they're going to issue 50 implementation across the entire United States of America. 50, okay?
1%.
So ideally,
Probably 9%.
so
10 for California.
for us to be successful,
Texas.
and I sent, I used to be a teacher. So I sent a stern message to the class, after our technical advisory committee. But for us to be successful, to be one of these 50, the following things have to happen. And that is, most of all, most importantly, since the counties all rely on VDOT for road construction, they must meet with VDOT, go over the countermeasures on these 5 priority corridors, and see what VDOT's able to fit into their normal construction schedule. For example, one of the most straightforward would be installation of snow plowable raised pavement markers for the center line. And VDOT will then need to validate the cost. Our consultant has done a cost estimate based on experience. And also VDOT will have to make sure that cost reflects the contract award time in the future and that inflation cost. There's no the implementation grant won't cover any carrying costs. So, and we will hold 20% match, and it's a reimbursement situation. So VDOT's going to have to, and the locality are going to have to work together on whether it's even possible to include the raised reflective pavement markers for, let's use an example, Rock Road or River Road. And the locality, the contractor is gonna have to have time and be aware that the county is gonna have to see that bid cost. It's gonna have to be carved out for that road. They are going to have the choice of, I used an example in the message. Let's say that at this stage, VDOT and spots of, or VDOT estimates that the cost of raised pavement markers on River Road would be $100,000. Let's say the bid comes in and it's $150,000. So Spotsylvania needs time to decide whether they want to make up that difference in total. The 100,000 would be eligible for the 80% federal funds. Spotsylvania would have already deposited their 20% match with us and hold it in our account. The contractor needs to know that, hey, Spotsylvania may walk away from this price. So know that your firm award doesn't include these special projects. And then in order for the contract, VDOT will have to pay the contractor once he's finished that work. They'll then have to submit a reimbursement request to us, validate that the work was done to VDOT standards, it's ready to be accepted in the VDOT system for maintenance, and certify that the contractor has been paid with a canceled check or a certification statement and affidavit from the contractor. At that point, we submit that to Federal Highways, get the 80% paid into our account, write a check for the $100,000 to VDOT. So that's what I mean about the carrying cost. And I'm not even sure this is even going to be possible. So the localities are meeting directly with VDOT now. We hope that they will come back to me with some viable projects. The city has a little more power and flexibility because they're used to installing their own pavement marking, and their traffic engineering are a little more, maybe there are fewer steps involved and all that. But when I get, and I want Matthew to hear this, when I receive the implementation grant ideas that you all want to be submitted in May 16th, I then have to prepare a safety case study. I have to do analysis and do a report that shows to the federal government the crash reduction benefits of these implementation projects. So it's not just a matter of putting something in there. Here's the list. There's work to be done after I receive those to convince the federal government for us to be one of those 50 implementation grant projects. The other deadline that's coming up is the opportunity for supplemental planning grants to be submitted. That first same deadline is actually in April. There's a second deadline in May 16th, and then one further out in August. So at this point, Spotsylvania and Fredericksburg are considering a joint application. I understand from discussions with Ian that Stafford wants to go it alone for their own.
That's not.
Okay, no, that's great. Okay. I heard something about $1 million you were gonna do a supplemental.
A safety action plan, yes, but not for the implementation grant.
Yes, so you're gonna go it alone on the supplemental grant.
Yes.
Which is great.
Yep. For the construction, though, we'll be working with FAMPO to apply.
Okay, great. So that supplemental grant is the idea that the Spotsylvania has proposed is to take the GWRC traffic safety plan, transportation safety plan that's been done, look at high injury networks in that plan that was used to come up with these 5, and come up with corridors for additional study as a supplemental planning grant.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you, Becky. Does anyone else have any further questions or comments?
I just have a comment. You mentioned earlier, rumble strips. Our riders out in the county, King George County, hate them. It's particularly the ones on the edge side. We have a very small number of riders because riding in King George is taking your life in your hands, as you can imagine. It's driven them into the travel lanes. Because, because the rumbles, they don't like tangling
Sure.
with the rumble stripes, so it's
Mhm.
driven them off of the shoulders into the treble. I
Mhm.
just tossed that out.
Mhm.
The other,
And it's up to the locality to listen to that concern and,
well, we of course recognize that we have a lot of distracted driver accidents too, which is what the rumble strips along the edge are.
mhm.
So the highway people have a real problem trying to meet all these requirements.
And how does, when we have a nice wide paved shoulder, like on, the portion of, Fredericksburg Turnpike in Spotsylvania, 4-foot paved shoulder with a rumble strip at the edge line, can you all get over on the paved shoulder and that's okay?
Yeah, our shoulders in King George County tend to be
Non-existent.
either non-existent or very narrow.
Yeah,
And I have seen many instances where the rumble stripes aren't on the white edge line. They're in the middle of the paved shoulder,
right,
which, which really destroys the reason that you have a shoulder.
Mhm.
At least as far as riding a bicycle goes.
Sure.
The other comment I'd like to make, a lot of all this is driven by crash analysis,
Mhm.
right? Okay. Bicyclists are, I'm probably a case in point. I don't ride a bike out on the road because I can't run the risk of being a part of the crash analysis statistics.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure I'm not alone.
Mhm.
So I don't know how you capture that kind. I don't know how you capture my experience, who doesn't want to be a part of the crash experience, but would really love to get out and ride.
Mhm.
So I just tossed that out.
Yeah, and like, that's why I'm here to bravely, take the punches. This analysis is to try to eliminate runoff road collisions of people and cars. Like I say, in the best case, for a road like, let's say Caledon Road in King George County.
Mhm.
Where I have worked in the past, in Henrico County and Hanover County, VDOT has funded an improved 2-lane road. Ponce Tract Road is one that's in the Rockville part of Hanover going into Goochland County. And it's very much like Caledon Road, very windy. And they spent a lot of money to straighten out those curves and put a wonderful paved shoulder. It's a beautiful improved 2-lane section with a great paved shoulder. And as I say, the ideal thing is to have the rumble strip along the edge line and a nice 4-foot wide paved shoulder.
Yes,
That way you all are over there safely.
that's the ideal thing.
Yeah, so that's the ideal.
That's the ideal thing.
And I will say this, I do not believe you'll see this implementation grant, except again on probably Orange Plank Road, where it's straight. On curvy roads, VDOT and the safety team, rumble strips actually create head-on and runoff road collisions because the motorist is trying to get away from. And on a straight road though, like going out to Lake Anna, you have a lot of straight folks doing 55 with their boats and so forth. Centerline rumble strips are a real lifesaver. So centerline rumble strips, I think everybody can agree, is the top use of them. Don't bother any cyclists.
Cyclists, no. Don't-
And you're absolutely right. But it's a double-edged sword. But I do believe even VDOT will shy away from edge line rumble strips on a curvy road.
Mhm.
Your first line of attack would be to put them on the center line okay? And you don't want one only on the edge line, because that will then get you over the center line. So you kind of see them in a bit of a tiered, implementation system, with center line being the top priority to prevent, crossing the center line and head-on collisions.
Well, thank you so much.
Good, one more question over here.
Thank you. And I actually have two more questions, if you'll indulge me. I'll try to be quick. Thanks for the presentation. First question about the study itself and the identification of 5 corridors. Is the number 5, is that a programmatic number, or is there any other magic to coming to that number of selected corridors to
That was
study?
the scope of services that we provided, the consultants, so we could afford to do
Okay,
5 per jurisdiction,
okay.
25 total.
Okay, and then regarding the survey, I liked the interactivity of the survey. I thought that was pretty cool. Seeing how this study is very, the data is foundational, and particularly with the identification of those 5 corridors that have already been studied. I imagine that there's gonna be a lot in the survey that may be more isolated in nature and may not contribute to the corridor geography that we're discussing
Oh, absolutely.
in this study. So what type of, what can we do with that data in the context of this application, or can that data be extrapolated for other uses?
The data will be used as part of the final action plan. And we'll compile that information. A lot of it will be potentially items that can be taken to VDOT as safety improvements that need to be done now.
Okay.
I know in my own case, there are stop signs in Caroline County where a stop ahead sign is needed, because I can't see the stop sign until I'm right up on it. So those kind of things, to bring those to light, can be then provided to VDOT and hopefully installed. You are our eyes and ears out there where you can tell us about things that you see on your normal day-to-day driving. Again, my route between my home and Lake Landor and Caroline and here, there are several spots that just a stop ahead sign or doubling up of stop signs would really help motorists see those, because they kind of sneak up on you in a lot of cases like that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Unless there's anything further, we move on to our next agenda item.
Great, thank you.
All right, awesome. Well, I guess this is my item. So we'll move on to item 6C, Diversity Greenway Network update. So for those of you who are not at our last BPAC meeting, I guess, Carrie, do you want to give a brief rundown of what the Greenway plan is, and then what we're kind of doing?
Sure. So back in 2021, the Department of Forestry funded us to do basically a study of what we should. I didn't think I was gonna have to do anything.
Sorry, that was a
Mr. Chair.
thought right in the moment. I can.
No, I can do it.
Okay.
I love the study. I guess I should talk about it. We wanted to see if we could build a foundational network of trails upon which we could sort of grow, basically. And in 2021, we got together, and BPAC was the core group, but we had about 25 people working on the project. And we identified what were the most important priority trails that we should fund and build to start with. We had basically two tiers, but they're kind of interchangeable depending on which ones can receive funding first, which we could build first, that are the most important priority trails. And these are the ones that will connect the 3 and ultimately 5 communities the best. And from there we can build on, connecting to the East Coast Greenway, of course. And that's where we started, but as time goes on, some trails get funded, some become more feasible, some become less feasible, things get updated, and we decided it was time for an update. So over the next several months of this year, at each meeting, we're gonna have a different locality present their update. And so Stafford gets to go first.
Yep. So it's been, I think, this summer will have been 3 years since that initial
Yep,
effort.
3 years since Stafford.
So it's a good amount of time to make an update. And it kind of corresponds on the Stafford side. If you want to go to the next slide, with our transportation master plan. So this is a plan that is whole county, roadway, bike ped, transit, everything. So this was started in 2022 and really worked in earnest in most of 2023. And we actually just presented a draft to our board, initial draft last fall and an actual document draft, back in February. So we're gonna use it to kind of guide our transportation decisions as we move forward. And this is kind of our guiding document for our plan. So emphasis on draft. Our board has not approved anything. They've seen it. That is it. Kind of here today just to discuss some of the more multimodal, the bike ped elements and how those might fit into the Jupiter Greenway plan and just make you all aware kind of some of the stuff that we have going on. So what's down there is our strategic plan. We have Stafford 2040 to develop a multimodal infrastructure and transportation system. I won't read all the details, but it is all encompassing and generally flows into kind of three aspects: safety, congestion, and accessibility. More specifically, generally on the accessibility front is where the multimodal aspect of this comes in. If you want to move to the next slide, thank you. So this is phase 2 of the plan. Phase 1 is everything we're currently doing. So roadway, bike ped projects. Phase 2 is stuff we're going to do in the short term. These are our multimodal projects, our roadway projects that we're applying for Smart Scale, for CMAQ, STBG, some of FAMPO's funding programs, to Transportation Alternatives Program, a federal funding program. These are the projects that we're going to be working on over the next 10 years. And then further out is phase 3, and that is some really long range roadway based plans to do some significant improvements to improve congestion and improve accessibility in Stafford County. So for multimodal specifically, we prioritized a group of projects. So over 30 projects were prioritized, mostly sidewalks with a few shared use paths, basically filling in gaps in our networks, and slowly starting to look at trying to build a plan to build out that greater trail network. We have several studies that have been done in the past and are currently ongoing. So the Warrenton Road Multimodal Study was done by the Secretary of Transportation's Office of Intermodal Planning and Investment, otherwise known as OIP, through a program called the Growth and Accessibility Planning Program. It was a $75,000 study that looked at multimodal improvements in the Warrenton Road corridor down in southern Stafford. There's a little box on the map, the southwest corner, I guess I'll say, is the Warrenton Road area where that study occurred. And that study came up with a bunch of different areas for improvements, gap improvements in the county that we would look to make. So that's one aspect of this plan. The second aspect is the Garrison Road Multimodal Study. This is a study that was funded by FAMPO, Surface Transportation Block Grant. It's a federal funding program that FAMPO allocates. And we use this funding to do a very similar multimodal study of North Stafford and the Garrison Road Service District, the northwest quadrant of the county. And that came up with a similar set of recommendations for shared use paths and sidewalks in that area of the county. And this one actually went a step further and did cost estimates and sketches for these projects, whereas we'll be able to now apply for federal funding or state funding programs for this pretty quickly. And then the last aspect, I think more importantly to the Greenways plan, is Stafford Heritage Trail Study. This was funded by OIP again, the Office of Intermodal Planning and Investment, through their Growth and Accessibility Planning program. And it is generally trying to look at a north-south trail throughout the county. If you look at, for instance, East Coast Greenway is a great example, as well as the Potomac Heritage Trail. If you pull up, for instance, the Potomac Heritage Trail map, Potomac Heritage Trail goes from Pennsylvania all the way down to the northern neck. If you look at that map, you see a big gap in Virginia, and that gap is Stafford County. So one of the things we'd look at doing with this plan is using it to fill in that gap and come up with a set of recommendations for north-south trail throughout Stafford County, connecting to Prince William County's portion of the Potomac Heritage Trail and the East Coast Greenway, as well as down in South Stafford, the existing Belmont Ferry Farm Trail at Chatham Bridge. So a trail going north-south of the county. They're in the recommendations phase right now, coming up with a final recommendation for where projects will occur, and then those projects per our board would then be added, if approved, into our transportation master plan for our future plans as we look to move forward. Obviously all within board approval. And then we look at some additional areas to study, including Route 1 areas in North Stafford and the Falmouth area in South Stafford that have not yet been looked at for a detailed look at multimodal improvements. So next slide. So from there, this is just a little bit more zoomed in map of the north area. Because of funding availability, we've grouped everything into two sets of options, North Stafford and South Stafford. North Stafford, due to its unique position being a part of the Washington DC urban area, but in the FAMPO region, receives a little over $200,000 a year in TAP funding specifically for North Stafford. And that is funding for sidewalks and trails that we can use and that Stafford County can allocate through FAMPO. Additionally, FAMPO has in its STBG prioritization process an additional little over $300,000, I believe, as well towards bicycle pedestrian projects. So that's about $500,000 that we can use in this area. So we've split it up into North Stafford and South Stafford specifically because of that funding. So next slide. So I know this is a bit harder to see on the screen here, but we have a little over, I think 19 projects here that are listed as filling in gaps in our network. And some of these will be shared use paths as we look to fill in those gaps. And these are projects that some of them we're already starting to move forward with for funding through FAMPO, as well as we'll be looking at for VDOT's revenue sharing program and VDOT's transportation alternatives federal funding program as well next year. So we're already getting work on some of these gaps as we look to move forward, and we'll look to build this list of improvements into the Greenway plan later this year, and we come up with that final recommendation for additions. So next slide. Similar thing in South Stafford. Again, we have those two focus areas from the prior studies and the future study that we'd like to do. Next slide. And then South Stafford. Again, similar map, similar list of projects, filling in gaps in our network. And some of these again are sidewalk. A lot of these are sidewalks, but some of these are shared use path projects to help build out that trail network and build off of really existing trails. There's a great shared use path off of Trustlow Road that we'll look to connect to, and there's a great shared use path, the Belmont Ferry Farm Trail, that we'll look to provide additional connections to as well, with several projects on the map. And all of those projects will in some way feed into the Jupiter City's Greenway plan in terms of its future trail network. Next slide. And then Stafford Heritage Trail. This is just preliminary, what's included in our master plan. We'll get more detail at a later date as the study is still underway. But looking at a north-south trail, we'll likely have two sets of areas we recommend, west of I-95 and east of I-95, and then several spurs for future trails, such as down Cole Landing to Governor's Island, additions to the Belmont Ferry Farm Trail, and the Potomac Church Trail connecting to the Stafford Civil War Park, which I think may or may not already be in the Greenway plan, but we'll look to add that if not. So this is really one of the main focus points of adding some of these trail networks that's in our master plan into the Greenway network so that we can work off that document to also help us find additional. And I think there might be one more slide. Yeah, so future planning, some more multimodal studies, and an update to the county's bike head plan. It was last updated in 2019. We'll be looking update, it's coming up on 5 years. So hopefully we'll find a way to update that in the coming year. But really our main next step is updating the Greenway's plan to include a more comprehensive set of bicycle pedestrian projects in Stafford County, mostly focusing on those shared use paths as needed. All right, with that, that was kind of all I had to discuss today. As we work through our board's approval of the master plan, once that is up for approval and is approved, we'll look to pull those recommendations into the Greenway plan later this year.
Okay, so I guess I have a question. So what is your timeline for improving this part of your master plan?
Yeah, so per our board presentation from actually earlier this week, we've been discussing this last fall. However, as we just presented our draft to our board last month, we're looking at a timeline of maybe sometime by this summer for approval, depending on board action and other public or board comments as we look to move forward. So,
at that point, you'll have a good idea about what trails you want to potentially add to this.
Yeah, this is generally what we're looking at. I don't think there'd be any significant changes, but we'll kind of move forward from there later this year.
So I'm thinking at that point, you can give us the list of the trails that you think are potential good candidates, and I think maybe we as a group can prioritize which ones we think are the best fit.
Yeah, certainly. Yep. Yeah, we're unfortunately still on the back end of the planning stage where everything is mostly complete, but not actually yet approved. So we're very close, just not there yet. So approval processes sometimes take a bit of time. So we'll kind of see how that goes as we work through this. But what you see on the screen for those trails and those sidewalks, that is what's in the plan. And I don't expect, significant changes. So we can probably that's generally what we're going to end, but get through the process.
that nice long north-south one. It's pretty exciting.
Yep, that will probably be our East Coast Greenway, and that will probably be our Potomac Heritage Trail as we look to move forward through it. I will mention as well, with the Dog Run Heritage Trail, our plan for the Stafford Heritage Trail was just north-south, South Stafford to North Stafford, but in our comprehensive plan, and our bike ped plan is out Route 3 to the Dog Run Trail. So that is still a connection that we will look to make work. At some point, whenever we can do either rails to trails or whatever other two opportunities come our way. So.
Good.
And it is important because that is what connects all of King George
Yep.
to the rest of the Greenway, rest of
Yep.
the George
I mean,
Washington Greenway.
If we make that connection, we can get from Dahlgren all the way out to western Spotsylvania County. With some of the stuff already funded in Spotsylvania and the city, that's already moving forward. It's just the Stafford side. There's nothing funded. There's a route plan, but nothing funded and no funding plans right now to get that going. So that is kind of awaiting in part on the rail line. If it ever ceases operation, that would be a good opportunity. I think there's a few trains every week, so.
Hey, Matthew, let me ask you a question. Active part of the Dahlgren rail line, as you point out, there are a small number of trains, but that is important linkage to our industrial park out there. Once upon a time, we had included on some of our plans a potential rails with trails at some future time. And I viewed that as a placeholder. Sooner or later, that rail line is, as you point out, either isn't going to be used anymore, or it's going to have to be upgraded.
Yep.
Because we've already had instances, as you know, of coal cars tipping over on the rail line. So sooner or later, it's going to have to be upgraded.
Yeah, the closure of the power plant certainly helped that along, but I think the garbage facility is, the landfill is still unfortunately.
Yeah. So, I think at one point in time, it was listed in both our county's planning and your county's planning too, as a potential future rails with trails.
Yeah.
I think it was taken out of both our county and your county at the request of one of our county supervisors because of a possible impending addition to our industrial park or something. People I talk to now have no memory of any of that. Surprise, surprise. I'm talking to our county to see what the feeling is about putting it back in on our end, showing it as a potential rails with trails or rails to trails. So I wanted to just toss that out to you.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that we can consider as well. I don't remember exactly what our plan states, if it's rails with trails or on the rail. So I'll follow up and look into that, but certainly an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's the whole issue is funding.
Oh,
That's gonna be, I don't know how many miles it is, but it's a
big old
It's a lot.
long thing.
it's a big one.
That I asked, VDOT did, it was right away, and they had the rail lines guys come in. And I don't know what the presentation was. I don't think any of you guys were there, so, but I was, because who knows when I do all this other fun stuff. But I asked the gentleman who's in charge of railway acquisition type stuff. I said, what's the likelihood of CSX going rails with? He said, you think you can jump, so high? And I'm like, nope. So yeah, pretty much zero was the answer I got.
I think they don't love that.
CSX, no.
Yeah, they're not
And
a real fan of that.
the one thing about that section, I mean, is it CSX?
CSX.
It only has, as far as I'm aware, it's only used by one service, right? Which is the landfill, which does make it a little bit easier that's not used by.
There is one user.
Okay.
In the industrial park, a specialty steel company uses it.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah.
There's also the option of just going down Route 3.
But that's what I've been was going to say, is we actually do have some maps where there's an alternate route down Route 3 that comes up and meets the.
Yeah.
the diagram.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, right. The other thing that Chris and I haven't talked about is, in the original implementation, or the original writing of the Greenway plan, there was this weird curve coming off the western end of the railroad trail and making a weird curve down Bloomsbury Road to hit Route 3, rather than going straight across on Birchwood Creek Road, which is the most obvious way to go. So Chris and I will be talking with whoever we have to talk about, is can we put the way to get from the western end of the railroad trail to Route 3, put it back on Birchwood Creek.
We can make any of those corrections that we need to. These are such high level, long-term maps that they will change, any line drawn on these maps is.
I know.
We've changed 4 of the 5 board members since then, so there is the potential for a change.
Yeah.
But these guys they would never throw us a penny, I think, towards trails right now, so.
No, right now, I understand. So, the other, question I had.
I can draw lots of trails.
Yeah, just, curious, Matthew, remind me what the, Belmont Ferry Farm Trail Phase 6 is.
Back on the table?
So, technically, Belmont Ferry Farm failed Phase 6 is in our county CIP under Parks and Rec in the out year. That's about it.
Is it?
So it is, Phase 6 goes from the Chatham Bridge out to Ferry Farm,
Okay,
down Route 3.
okay.
Well, through the Naomi Road and then down Route 3. But it was canceled a couple years ago. It was added back into our CIP, but it's in the out years. There's no movement on that right now.
Okay.
Ryan's retiring.
I remember a lot of discussion with neighbors and
Back in 2020 or 2021.
Yeah.
The Ferry Farm management had some issues. So
Yeah.
hoping to overcome all those issues, maybe.
Yeah, if the project looks to still move forward, that's certainly something we'd get back into and figuring out all of that.
Okay.
So we'll kind of see where that process goes as we move forward.
Great. Well, thank you.
Any further questions on the Stafford side? I think at the next meeting.
It has taken me this long to find a Greenway map on my phone. And your weird curve.
Yeah, there you go.
So is
Yeah.
it Spotsylvania at the next meeting?
The next, I would have to look back
Okay.
on, I believe it is
Okay.
Spotsylvania. I will double check.
July.
That is 2 months from now.
That's fine. Are there specific maps or prioritization, table or anything that you I look at, so I focus solely on those?
I just told Matthew to give us an update what his county is doing on trail
Okay.
and.
So I was trying to cater to what was
We can-
already
we can-
in.
we can
Yeah.
Talk offline
Okay.
and I can answer any questions you have. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, because we haven't gotten to the point of having something actually approved yet, so we're
Yeah.
still
Right.
before kind of the
Everybody's
planning stage.
At a different
Whereas
stage.
you all might be in a different place than us.
Yeah, the counties are at a different stage. They have different things going on.
It tends to be what's adopted and then little tweaks
Yes.
here or there
Yeah.
because of the moving targets or things emerge and opportunities, so.
Yeah.
They have to be vetted at this level.
They do.
Because
They do.
over time, they start becoming more real in
Yeah.
time, so you kind of start vague and you slowly work them out.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
I'll follow
we'll
up with
talk.
you.
Yeah.
With that, we'll move on to item number 7, correspondence. I believe there's a letter from FHWA with regards to the BCR trail.
There is. So, I wrote to FHWA to ask about whether they had any concerns about building a tunnel under their highway. Surprisingly, Interestingly, they did not, because I just wanted to find out. And they did not. They actually supported it. They are in support of a VCR trail tunnel. They didn't have any concerns, and they said, our engineering staff has completed a review and advised they have no issues with the proposed project. And what's more, they think that we should apply for a raise grant.
Wow.
So
That's something that FAMPO will need consultant support on in the future, or is that something that FAMPO staff will?
we're gonna want consultant support. We're gonna want to do it like right.
You looking for next round?
Probably next round, sir. Like, we haven't even gotten that far yet.
Yeah, just,
But
we're in the phase of allocating STBG and CMAC money, so just.
like,
May need to wait until a future year, but.
until future year, but this was a very encouraging letter, because this takes one hurdle away.
Yeah, for those
There's no
unaware,
security concerns.
FAMPO with STBG funding as well last year, or the year before that, did a VCR tunnel and bridge study for I-95, for Route 1 and for Route 3. And the city actually is looking like should get some funding this year in CMAC for the bridges over Route 1 and Route 3, a few $100,000. But
Go down on this, leavings. I think my big VCR trail map is on this letter. And for those who are not, keep going. For those who are not, there we go, that. Make that a little bigger if you can. For those who are not familiar, Elliot, perhaps.
We rode the VCR just past Route 1 earlier today, because that was only like 2 miles, but.
Yeah, so there's a piece in Spotsylvania on the west there. There are you can see by the legend what is built and what is not. We're
But-
just building bits of it here and there, and the big,
everything here in the city is to my knowledge, Carrie, funded except for the improvements to the crossings, so.
yeah, we're having some trouble building the bridge, but
I heard that Hazel Run Bridge I heard that it was like insanely over budget and they said no. Is that?
it's in limbo.
Okay.
It has not been canceled. It is not clear exactly what's wrong with Hazel Run Bridge. We are working on it.
It scored really well in Smart Scale, but it was, I guess, Smart Scale round 1 for a few $100,000.
It should have been built.
We
many
have
years
everyone's
ago.
blessings, but no one's.
It should have been built many years ago.
A lot of money.
It
Um,
causes me it causes me that.
Yeah, that's how I think.
But
And
this fall, it just, things happen, including COVID.
that would connect so
And
much.
steel tariffs and a million other things, the bridge just
Yeah.
is having a bad life.
You can see the crossings here of I-95, Route 1 and Route 3, and that's what the VCR trail study, bridge and tunnel study had looked at, looking at crossings of all of those, and then the I-95 portion it's very good news.
Yeah, I think the bridge, the bridges at Route 1 and Route 3, the city is going to be
Getting
getting
some
this
funding.
funded. Yeah,
I mean,
getting
it's
some
a-
funding for that,
A few $100,000 for a $20 million project.
something. Do you?
Start filling the bucket penny by penny.
Oh, that.
That gap,
Yeah,
it's only greenway, it's not really tied to
I
anything,
know.
and I don't have a real clear path forward yet.
you gotta play it down, man, because I keep telling people that Spotsy's like sorting that out. Spotsy's sorting that out.
Jacob's
not-
all-
we
I'm
gotta-
a realist
we-
here.
we
and
gotta
I
build-
know
You gotta build a tunnel because Spotsy's got the western side sorted out.
this western side is getting sorted out coming east from where it currently terminates to get us the signal, and then starting to come along Harrison Road, but from Harrison Road inland, that's where we have an issue still.
Well,
The red section is proffered though, correct? That part, if you. scooch
Can we,
up a
can we
little bit,
scooch it up a little bit?
The other way?
or zoom in, I guess, or.
Yeah.
I don't wanna, here, I'm gonna do it anyway. Show up.
Yeah, do it anyway.
So what's up, Nick?
Jacob.
Going to the board.
This is our biggest regional trail. This is our like,
All
our
right,
thing.
so this project is funded
Mhm.
to bring us to the intersection. We have a smart scale round 4.
Yeah.
Are those two
For the
tied,
intersection,
are those two tied together, or are they separate
Separate.
projects? Oh, okay.
and then there's a Wawa, rezoning project that takes us to where Salem Station Boulevard comes in, and that's all proffered. from here to the front of Twin Springs subdivision,
Mhm.
I have nothing.
Crawford?
That is, Twin Springs subdivision is not Crawford. This piece was Crawford.
Yeah.
However, that project never went anywhere, and there's been rezoning proposals.
All of those
So
housing
it's up in
developments.
the air again.
So I have to change my map colors?
Yes, you do. Harrison Village, as the Twin Springs subdivision, we were able to secure a shared use path along their frontage. And then the county, what may end up happening is the county's pursuing the widening all the way up to.
Yes, yes.
We may be able to infill that, but
Mhm.
then this. I don't have a really strong update for you on any. That's the problem. And right now, this is, we asked if, it was a by right development, Avalon Woods.
Yeah,
We asked if developer at the time would consider
years ago.
working with us on
Yeah.
that, and it was a no. Now that piece of property is under HOA, although I think the developer's still in the HOA, which would probably be more advantageous. Still work with the entity who developed the site, but right now, unfortunately, the back of Harrison Village, they did, dedicate a small recreational trail easement for a kind of a north-south segment, but essentially this and this is still, I don't know. So.
All right,
That's
so
my concern.
here's my big concern. You take Harrison Road all the way to I-95. What happens when that becomes an interchange?
Well, right now, what happens is, with the, I honestly don't know, I'm not sure.
What if we, I
It's
mean,
not gonna be, I'll say this, it's likely not going to be a complete, you're not looking at full Cloverleaf interchange here by any means, because you have Kingswood subdivision over here, you have development all here. This is likely gonna be, we've talked about maybe slip exits and things like that, not a full interchange.
okay,
That's what my understanding is. I don't know how you would ever really work something, a full interchange in here.
Yeah.
to be honest with you.
Carrie, is it being included in the I-95 project, the tunnel, or no?
no, because we're just going for southbound.
So what we have is the VCR auxiliary trail system,
Yes,
Yeah,
which takes Harrison to Route 1.
Mhm.
And then big smart scale regional wing is the shared use path all the way
Heck
up
yeah.
the VCR trail up Route 1 corridor, which is an awarded project.
yep.
So this and the I-95 bridge is part of the widening, the improvement of Harrison Road. That's
Right.
all in thoroughfare plan that's supported, but I don't have.
My concern was about an interchange, that everything would get obliterated if we went with an interchange. But if you think that we can preserve it,
I mean, if you look at Stafford's Courthouse Road interchange, there's a shared use path going right through it, and
Okay.
That's.
operations aren't horrible.
That's actually
But-
kind of the inspiration.
Yeah.
That's kind of what comes to mind. I go through there all the time,
Mhm.
drop my kids off at daycare down Courthouse Road, so that's kind of the inspiration. We figured we'd be able to work around it.
Yeah.
Make that work.
if we
But
can
yeah, I
make it
don't
work.
know the inland. Question mark.
I mean, what we need to pursue is connectivity, first and foremost,
Yeah.
right? So.
Yep.
We can do the other things someday, that's great, but in the meantime,
We can have a meeting with, transportation staff and see if
I
there's
think
any
we should.
opportunities, but this is another one of these right project at the right time.
yeah, I think we need to get everybody on the same page, because right now people are kind of at cross purposes on the best course. Like the last time we had a meeting about this was in 2019, where we all got together and like kicked this thing out of
was-
its
yeah.
slumber and
That was
got
a
it back
fun
going
meeting.
again.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jacob.
Thank you, yeah.
Appreciate the update.
I mean, I think it's important.
Maybe not.
Important drill.
There might be, curious something to add to the agenda, just VCR trail update that we do every or every other meeting or something, because, I mean, Spotsylvania in the city has a VCR trail, but Stafford has a Belmont Ferry Farm trail, which is connects to that, so it's it's interrelated for all three localities.
If we're very strategic about it, we could get ourselves a very long trail. We just have to be careful about where we travel.
I believe there's one more item also on trails, but I think a different set of type of trails here.
Hey, yeah.
So I guess Carrie, this is just the article from Potomac Local about the reservoir.
Yeah, look who it is
Sorry.
again.
John Lynn is.
Someone is busy. Name.
I know her.
Yeah,
So I think
Cool.
so just a celebrity moment.
our celebrity
Wow.
moment. Coley, did you send that to me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So there you go. Ms. Faust is at it again.
Wow.
Alright, well, with that, we'll move on to staff reports.
Coley has some staff reports. I believe.
Oh, yes, I sure do. We have a couple, well, we have a open house for the River Crossing Parkway study. It is March 20th from 5 to 7 p.m. It's a drop-in style meeting, so you can come anytime between that 5 and 7 p.m. period and talk with the consultants for the study, Michael Baker International, and they'll hopefully answer any questions you have about the river crossing study. So that's on our public involvement page.
Okay.
And then there's just some more information about the Safe Streets and Roads for All study and action plan that Becky was presenting on earlier. And then, just of course, all of our other information about public involvement. So again, here's the survey that we have available. There's 5 different pages to go through, and it's interactive, like Erin mentioned earlier. So on this page, you can rank which strategies are most important to you. And it just goes through, so you can like drag and drop, and you just put 5 items above this line here. And then the map marker page, this is pretty cool. You can like zoom in close to a specific intersection, and drag and drop that.
That's a pretty good location right there.
Amazing. And like excessive vehicle speeds, and then you can like leave a comment, and for like the different dropper marks, you can specify exactly what you have an issue with, as well as an other section. And then just another suggestions, what you have for thoughts on safety regarding transportation in the region. Yeah, so it seems like a lot, but it's not that much, or you can, put as much as you want into it as you'd like. And yeah, and then there's the action plan linked right there. And I think that's all that I have for staff reports.
Thank you.
Cool.
Good question.
Quick question.
I did that. It was
Just looking at those survey questions, I didn't see anything really aimed at, like, if a locality noted, like, for instance, if this talks about sidewalk gaps or something that are noted, but a locality's comp plan, for instance, had targeted a shared use path improvement, if the plan isn't aligning with local guidance, where should we submit that kind of, like, hey, heads up, like, we may have a little bit of a conflict with XYZ in terms of the language that's being spoken? Instead of sidewalk, it might be a shared use path or something, or is that not gonna matter?
Do you mean in relation to the action plan, like the
Yeah.
5 corridors?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great.
Email
question.
it or
Yeah.
put it in there,
Yeah, you can either whatever.
because I didn't see a
You
real.
mean for staff or? For
Yeah, in my case, it'd be for staff, because I went through it.
Yeah, just email it to Becky and everyone
Okay,
here.
okay. I just want to make sure everything has parity, is on the same page, you know?
Right, for sure, for sure.
Right, Carrie, anything further on staff?
Yeah, so then I just have a brief staff report that we have hired an intern, Lita Hinkle from UMW, and she's helping us with a lot of stuff. She's great. She's helping me work on a small area plan for Carmel Church.
Are you coding anything in Python?
She is not. I'm just having her do analysis and some. And yeah.
Sounds good. All right, we will move on to member reports. We'll just go around the room and start with Jacob.
The only thing is, East Coast Greenway Alliance, thanks for one of your support letters. controversial case, but it was ultimately approved by the board on February 27th. The Village at Crossroads project, which fronts Crossroads Parkway across the street, basically from the VRE station, Spotsylvania County. That project was approved. Has fairly significant shared use path network along the Crossroads Parkway frontage with the goal of it connecting the East Coast Greenway and allowing a shared use path access to our VRE station. It also has a connector road that's going to be built with Boulevard Road between Crossroads Parkway and Thornton Rolling Road. Again, a shared use path tying to Thornton Rolling Road, and with a northbound and a southbound shared use path tying up to 17 and down towards Fredericksburg Christian School. So some shared use path infrastructure there. It's part of the East Coast Greenway auxiliary trail system in our maps, and we did get a support letter from you all, and it has been fruitful. So, thank you. That's all I have.
Our smart scale, I think around 5s on 301 are out for public comment right now. All the transportation engineers on Facebook, they're crazy, because they're all
Innovative intersections.
they are cuts.
Yep.
But, you know, because everybody on Facebook's a transportation engineer. It's amazing how smart they all are.
Are they impaired?
Nick Miner, Director of Economic Development and Tourism for us, who is our representative on TAC, has resigned. He is gone at the end of the month. So I don't know what that means for TAC, because our alternate has moved over to procurement. So she is our only VDOT certified person. We got a lot of hoops to jump through. Hop Yard Farm, one of their proffers was I think it's approximately 2-mile shared use path along the outside of their development. They have completed construction, but not punch list, so they have not brought it to the board yet for turnover, but it will become a Parks and Rec amenity eventually, because I need something else to do. And then our transportation alternatives program scored in the top 1/3 of the state and like top 5 of the region. So fingers crossed. CTV will do their thing in a couple months, and I'll be begging the board for matching funds.
Sounds good.
I don't have anything for the group.
Go for it.
Okay, Jim, here, yes. Let's see, last month we had our annual, winter, half marathon on the trail. We have the entrance cap at, 225. We had, 215 registered, and then the threat of snow came, so 180 runners appeared. Very interesting. There was a good crowd from up in the Washington area, and all of their cars, when they came down, had snow on their cars. So, so that was really interesting. Of the 180, as you might expect, most of them were from Virginia, 139, and of those 82 were from the Fredericksburg area. Both the men's winner and the women's winner set course records, so that was good. Runners rate a race on a website called Race Check. The runners love this race, they love the trail, and again, the race earned a gold award. So we're real proud of that, of course. And of the runners who entered, 65 of them entered rave review comments on the website. So again, we're real pleased that everybody really had a good time, enjoyed the race, loved the trail. So, last month, I think I reported, that the National Park Service had engaged a trail contractor to conduct a condition assessment of the trail. The assessment has been completed. He had 99 recommended maintenance items. 3 were rated as high priority, 39 is medium, and 54 is low. We will use his report to guide our maintenance activities as well as our applications for grants. The next activity on the trail, at least major activity, is our annual Sheets to Sheets run. That's on April 6th. I would encourage everybody to train up and enter, but this particular run is so popular that it's 100% subscribed within 8 hours after the entry opens. That's all on my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our feel-good story, the Fredericksburg Cycling. The Fred Trails, Fredericksburg Cycling, and the Fredericksburg Area Running Club combined forces, and we went to Sunken Well and worked with the Fairy Godmother Project, which is a childhood cancer organization, and we did fundraising for them. We were bartenders, and it was a great event, and it was like a competition to see who could raise the most money. I didn't get the results, so I was gonna find out how Brian did, our guy. So, but that was a great event, a great cause, and I just wanted to share that and put that out there, that the volunteer organizations in the community come together quite often, more often than I think is known to the public, and we do a lot of good together. So I was like, oh, great, you're here. So that was a fun event. Information purposes for the community, the water treatment plant in Spotsy is growing. And they have closed off this big, I don't know the exact area. I'd have to go back and look at our correspondence. But it was flagged off a couple of months ago. It is now officially closed. There's a pump house climb off of River Road that is closed going up to the water treatment plant. You can kind of get around it, but we're not recommending it, but we're still using Red Shed. So I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Yeah. But we are putting out the information that, hey, it's closed, and we will give regular updates to the community as to the progress of the water treatment facility. But that's all coming from them. We don't have any, we're just giving out the information. So, but it's a multi-year project, is from what we understand.
The only thing I can think about that trail connection is, aside from feedback that I received through county ed. If you reached out to our county Parks and Rec director, seeing if the county had entertained the idea of actually taking it on. The problem is they're taking on something that starts and ends outside of county property.
In the city.
And
yeah,
I just don't know how much, I don't know what else to do with this anymore at the point. I mean, the advice that I had received was a situation where the city acquired an easement across the property.
that's the last week.
I know your issue was the
Insurance.
concern that came across from the county on insurance, and I don't know how else to resolve that issue.
Yeah,
Unless it played out the way that we had advised on that.
We've kind of changed gears since then, Jacob, and because I completely agree with you, I don't know what to do about it. It's like up above my pay grade and we do this for free. So I don't know what to do. We're looking at doing other things within the reservoir, within the MOTS system that we are allowed to do.
Did the city have any feedback?
Well, they did say that they are working with the county to get that as an easement, but I haven't checked
That
on.
may
I
be
can-
outside of me then. It's probably attorneys talking and I'm not involved.
I can recheck with the city to see.
I can check with,
Progress
I can
is.
check with our county administrator and see, or.
I was thinking
county
with
administrator,
Mike.
see.
Yeah, I would
Last-
check in with him.
Oh, yeah, I'll check with Mike to see what kind of updates.
I mean, if we're talking.
If not, he'll give you an update from Public Works.
Yeah,
Okay, well, that would be extremely helpful. I think that's the resolution that's needed. Now, that water treatment plant, is that the city's water treatment plant in Mott's?
it's Mott's Reservoir. It's,
I think that's a city's water though, isn't it?
it's Spotsy County's.
It's in Spotsylvania County.
But we
It's
use that.
Spotsy County's water, I thought.
It's Spotsy owns that facility. Actually, you own it.
It's Spotsy.
Yeah, I don't
No,
know.
not facility.
I haven't seen, the only expansion I've seen is down on,
We just use your water.
near Cosmos Park.
I was under the understanding that it was. It's
I'd
a
have to talk to-
city park.
I'll talk.
Mott's is a city
But
park.
Mott's Reservoir is the city's, or the, I'm sorry, I just spoke, is the county's water, but that's,
Correct. We just use your water.
okay.
The city uses the water.
Correct.
I thought the city used the water.
The city uses the water.
Yeah,
Yes, we have Nye Reservoir.
yeah.
We also have Hunting Run Reservoir,
Yeah.
but Nye is the primary.
Just if you need something from me, just let me know.
I'll let you know. But that was a sidebar. I did not mean to get into that. I meant to just talk about the water treatment plant and that some of the trails are closed.
Hmm.
That's what I was going to try to communicate to you guys tonight. One more thing and then I'll go. There's an Eagle Scout project that we're working with. There's a swampy area at the bottom of Big Bill at the quarry trails. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Big Bill. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we're gonna put like a boardwalk there
Great.
where it's perpetually swampy and runners, I think, would appreciate it because they keep sticking sticks in it and that doesn't help and then it doesn't drain and we tell them not to do it and they don't listen and there's snakes there.
Where is this on the quarry trail again?
It's at the bottom of Big Bill, so if you're on the river trail and you make a left at the gauging station
From the
and
quarry?
you,
Oh, okay.
from.
From the gauging station,
From the gauging
that little
station.
building. Okay, and you go
So
down.
if you're coming from the quarry, gauging station's on your right and you make a left.
Oh, I've only gone right. Okay.
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And USGS
Yep.
goes that way.
I go
but if you
USGS.
Go up, you go up Big Bill and Big Bill, great climb, I recommend it. And it'll,
I take the easy way.
it'll take you to the ridge line.
Okay.
So everybody's favorite, the ridge line. So, and that is always swampy, nasty, muddy, swampy. So we have signed off on the Eagle Scouts paperwork and he's in the process of fundraising. So we hope to have the boardwalk there soon.
I'll just state my appreciation for the update for Stafford County. And as a resident of Berry Farm neighborhood, the inclusion of phase 6 in your discussion is appreciated, and I would love to see that finished.
A few items real quick. At a recent Pathways Committee meeting, one person mentioned the planned Route 1 bridge replacement over the canal path, which we refer to as the Taco Bell Bridge. And I spoke with VDOT staff and it is a ways out, but it will happen in a couple of years. And of course, that's going to disrupt the canal path when it does. So they're planning detours. One, would be for path users to go down to Mary Wash Boulevard, cross over at the CVS and then move back. But also they're looking at a temporary bridge over the canal path for pedestrians along Route 1. And that was encouraging. And also if they're looking at a temporary bridge, well, what's the difference between a temporary bridge and a permanent bridge? I'm no engineer, but the bridge has got to stay upright. So I figured it'd take something. So we'd like for VDOT to look at that. So I wanted to share that with y'all. Otherwise, let's see here. Oh yeah, folks are working on a bike to school day on May 8th. It's hard to believe that's already coming up. To the extent that any organizations want to partner with that, we have some folks who are talking to city schools and organizing routes, so that's pretty exciting. And then city staff is going to be repaving a portion of the canal path, probably know that's really pretty, so it'd be nice to have some fresh asphalt down on that, so that's should be a pretty, so.
Just for Stafford, just, I guess one thing for the good of the group, just FYI, recreational trails grants through DCR is opening up, I think in April or later on this month. It should close like a month after that, to DCR for, natural surface trails. I'm not sure who is eligible to apply. I know localities are, I'm not really sure who else. But there's like $2 million available. On the Stafford side, we have two roadway projects, but with significant bike ped amenities and sidewalks going to public hearing. Route 1 in Enon Road, which includes a sidewalk down Enon Road, is going to public hearing next week, I think Wednesday the 13th. That's Wednesday next week. For Route 1 in Enon Road at Stafford High School. And then Wednesday, March 27th, is Onville Road, and that is at Ann Moncure Elementary School. And that includes a sidewalk on both sides of Onville Road for the full length of Onville Road. We had a prior TAP project a while ago, but that's a pretty big sidewalk connection for us. So otherwise, master plan's ongoing. We're looking for approval hopefully sometime later this year. So.
You know, I just found out today that in addition to our primary traffic engineer at the Fredericksburg VDOT district retiring in
Summer?
Yeah, in the summer.
Yep.
John Logan, who is his number 2 of a 2-person department, is leaving for Lynchburg in April, the end of April. So that's gonna hurt. We're already down a quality control engineer and another engineer. Now we have 2 traffic engineers. So my point is, if you know of any civil engineers and they're good and they know what they're doing,
They're leaving in the middle of Smart Sky?
yes,
Yeah,
I
look
could
at
not
us.
believe that. They should be fired. But other than that, no, I mean, Cassie's more than gotten her feet wet.
Yep, Cassie's great.
Yeah, and so things are moving along quickly and she's taken on more responsibility than I can even watch.
My turn. So, I just want to remind everyone that, Bike to Work Week is May 13th through 19th, with Bike to Work Day on Friday, May 17th. The National, Just Get Out and Bike Day is the first Sunday in May, which, is May 5th. And then, of course, the League of American Bicyclists are partnering with, another group, a safety group, remember who, for the Bike and Roll to School Day, which is May 8th. I'm so glad we got somebody who's participating in that. So yeah, May is all about biking, and I'm hoping that it's a newer one for the Just Get Out and Bike Anywhere motion. So we get more people into that. It's hard to bike to work around here or even to the train station or anything. So. But it's getting easier thanks to all of the efforts you guys do.
I'm the new president of this Fredericksburg Cyclists, been a member of the club for 15 years. And you were saying a lot of our group is really getting more interested in riding lots and also gravel rides here. We're expanding a lot of interest in that regard. This year in August is our 40th anniversary of the club. 200 started with 60 members. The year after we got 240 now. And this year, last year we had our annual century ride out of the Lake Anna Winery, not the best thing. We had to move out, 15, 20 years up at Stafford. We had to do some of the roads to get in the town. But this year we'll be out of Massachusetts High School. So we're our interest in mountain run and mountain biking in general. We're taking. So,
Yeah, we've done some collaborative rides, Sunday rides.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question. Do you all, welcome electric bikes or?
Oh, yes, a lot of the people have are riding now, even some of them, no, even some of our longtime really good riders started to be like a lot of. But by the way, when you had those letters up, Pat Carl used to be, now I'm glad to see that Pat Carl is back riding. Now I gotta get Tuesday, Thursday
Ah,
mornings, but we still ride on winter, of course, but haven't seen him in a while. But, yeah, hey. A lot of people get.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to add? All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right. Well, with that, unless anybody has anything else for the good of the group, we will adjourn.